Welcome to the next episode of Flintco Talks. It's your boy Dano. I'm here in Austin this morning in the recording studio with some of my friends from the Inclusive Builders Alliance. I'd like them to introduce themselves, starting here with Shannon.
Hi, I'm Shannon Dunn. I'm with Flintco. I'm an estimator and I am a hub coordinator, which deals with historically underutilized businesses. And I'm here as part of the Inclusive Builders Alliance today.
Awesome.
Hi, I'm Terri Michalak. I'm with Rogers O'Brien Construction. I currently serve as a application support manager with client relations. I handle the technology behind marketing and business development.
Hi, I'm HT Tran. I'm with Turner Construction. I'm the community and citizenship manager for Turner Construction. Same thing, dealing with our small business trades and trying to empower and build up the community here in Austin.
That's so awesome. I'm so glad y'all are here today. We're a couple of GCs represented here, so that's it's always important to Flintco Talks to make sure we have people on that can share the vision across the industry. So we're here today to talk about the Inclusive Builders Alliance. So we can kind of go in the same order, and Shannon, you can start. Just tell me something about the organization and maybe what your role is inside the Alliance.
So about 3 years ago, me and Terri and a lady with DPR were at a NAMAC, which is National Association of Minority Contractors event. And the three of us just got to talking and, decided we kind of all had the same roles in our jobs. And so we said, maybe we should get together and kind of talk about, what are you doing in these situations? And so we went and had lunch. And that's kind of where it all started. And then I met HT, and it's just grown and grown, maybe to probably about 10 GCs in the Austin area at this time. So, I'm really excited about the group. We're all very passionate individuals.
Terri?
It's really hard a lot of times to comply with the requirements of, the city and the county. And it was just thought that by all of us coming together, we could share ideas on how we could do a better job and kind of, think more outside of the box about complying with the diversity requirements and how we could just maintain better relationships with our trade partners, our minority and women-owned trade partners.
I joined 3 years ago. I joined Turner. I was kind of in this newer role that we had here in Austin, and I was looking for people to partner up and collaborate with. I think as a former small business, I think it's very important to build a community, right? A community that can support each other. But it always seems like the GC firms are always the one that's kind of on the outside. It's usually from the public entity, and then you have the small business, and then we're kind of in the middle, and we're actually the one that kind of moves the process, but we don't always get the recognition, right? And we're not really looking for recognition, but more of like the support that we need to move on. And so, I had the understanding that we all compete on the front of the house, but on the back of the house, there's so much resources, and the objective is always to support that small business community. And why are we walking in different lanes when we can just walk together in the same lane and support each other and share the resources? Because there's so many small businesses, you're not going to be able to know them all or meet them all. And so I figure a conversation would bring us together. And by fate, someone had pointed me, it was like, hey, you need to go talk to this lady from Flintco. And I was like, who is that? And she's like, you gotta go, her name is Shannon, you need to go. And it was actually someone from DPR that was telling me, which is another, one of our competitors. And I'm like, in this space, there should be no competitors, right? Front of the house, 100%. In the back of the house, like we need to start making some friends, right? And so I had this honestly, Shannon was so warm welcoming. She was like, yes, I do this lunch. I do it with two other ladies. If you'd like to join in, honestly, it just took one lunch. And we're like, hey, this could be bigger than who we are right now, right? Bigger than the four of us. And Shannon was like, well, if you're interested, let's go. And I honestly never looked back. And the last, I would say, I've been with Turner now for almost 3 years. Honestly, the support, the events that we do with the IBA group, having Terri, have Shannon, giving different perspective. And I think this is what our community lacked, was perspective, right? It's always been like single perspective. Now we have a united perspective. And I think that's the part that I love most about the IBA group.
Yeah, at first we were, not concerned, but maybe concerned about what our supervisors might think, with us as competitors getting together. And we just said, diversity's, it's not a competition. We're all in this together. We're all in this to help our community, and that's what it's about. And that's where we've gone.
I feel like with public entities too, right? When we're bidding the stuff and there's these requirements, the requirement makes it so transactional. What we lack is really the intentional part of this, right? That's the intentional part. Because yes, we have to meet these certain percentages because it's mandated by us. But then you think about the conversation we're having. That transactional conversation doesn't make the small business feel supported. They feel like they're being used, right? And then our voice gets kind of blurred in that process as of like, hey, you're only talking to me because you have something you need to meet. It's like, no, we don't actually. In this group, it helps highlights that purpose that we have, right? Because we do believe in our small business, especially as GCs. We don't build anything. We rely on our small business, right? And it's now helping close that gap between us and the small business, but then also now, with the united voice, also sharing our accomplishments and our concerns with the public entity that we're working for as well too. And now we don't have gaps in that communication. Now it's one way flowing. And I think that's the incredible part about this process, right? And that's what we're looking for.
I love when y'all talk about the competition, right? And we're all competitors, and right, we know each other because we show up to bid openings, we show up to pre-bids, we're calling the same people. There is so much work in Central Texas right now. Like we could have 50 GCs in this group, and I think there's still enough work for everybody to have, right? And I think that's important to point out, is that you can see past the competition, right? And that as a board member at ABC, people ask me all the time, it's like, well, how do you talk to the guys at DPR? I'm like, the same way I talk to everybody, right? I mean, they're trying to get work just like we are. It's like, well, what about the Rogers O'Brien guys? I'm like, they're great folks, right? And everybody's in this business to make money and also to pay it forward somehow, some way, right? You're providing a service that people could enjoy for many, many years to come. And that's the goal of all of us. So I love the fact that y'all have been able to look past that and say, hey, what can we do collectively together to make this a better process? So I want to jump back to Terri, what you said earlier about the diversity requirements, right? So for people that are listening that might not understand what those requirements might be for a city type project, can you kind of expand on that just a little bit, and then we'll jump in more about the Alliance?
Sure. My previous role with RO was diversity manager, so I oversaw the compliance aspect. We wanted to do more than just check the box. And the city has a whole list of requirements that you have to comply with. You send out the bid invitations. You hold the pre-bid meetings. When you send out the bid invites, it's to 2 or more verifiable methods. You advertise to the trade associations.
Verifiable,
the
right?
plan rooms.
Right.
I mean, it's just the whole thing. And then you have, a lot of the compliance plan paperwork that you have to fill out, justifying if you didn't hire a minority sub, why, what was the reason? And so it's just kind of going through that list. And I found that organically, when we were bidding a job, I would get better response from our minority trade partner community than when I was actually doing a required mandated good faith effort. And I thought that was really kind of, just strange. And the response, the feedback I got back from our trade partners is that they, on the city jobs, were so overwhelmed with invitations from all the sub or the general contractors.
Yeah.
It's hard for them to, just get they would rather just bid the smaller jobs and not have to deal with all the other, the compliance requirements. But it's good for them to be certified because it gives them an opportunity to meet with other general contractors, and just to prove the value of the certification, they get a chance to bid the work where other subs may not hear about the project. So
anybody that doesn't understand really how the city does when they publish a RFP, or they publish a hard bid, or competitive sealed proposal, right? They tell you it's like, hey, we need this amount of participation from this demographic or this.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And so
The ethnicity, you break it out by ethnicity as well.
yeah.
And you have these goals that you have to comply with. And
it's public money, and they want to make sure everybody's getting their fair
Yes.
share, right? And
Yes.
that's kind of, as a guy that's worked in pre-con before, I totally understand, HT, your comment about the relationship being transactional between GCs and some of these minority builders or minority small business owners or whatever. And you're like, you're just calling me because you need my number type thing. Let's talk about that a little bit more and really how to be intentional, and what does IBA do to be more intentional?
I think part of the process is being in the public and having conversations more than just what you're seeking for your opportunity, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, on the IBA group, we're very keen on making sure that our small business community grows along as we grow, right? I think you had mentioned something like, hey, there's a lot of projects going on here. But what people fail to realize is that maybe 10, 20 years ago, GCs were able to do X, Y, and Z because it's GC market. We can be selective with whoever we wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
But here in Austin, with all the mega projects going on, our workforce is not where it's at.
Yeah.
We need more people. We need more businesses, right? And part of that is you got to build these relationships, right? We have to understand what they're able to do, where their limits are, because then that process of the conversation is more than just, hey, we need you for this project. We're invested in your future, of the longevity of your company, right? Every company is made for profits, but in the long run, there's more to the meaning of them just coming to work to build their business. Is it for legacy? Is this a part of my journey, on part of my career? As a former small business, I wanted to build a legacy business. I wanted a business that stands the test of time, right? The Turners, the Flintcos, the Rogers O'Brien, the DPRs. That's what every single entrepreneur that we come across, they just started the same place as these bigger organizations. It's just that they have not been afforded the time to get there. Someone at some point helped these bigger GCs get to where they're at, and it's based through relationships, right? The relationships are more than just, what do you need from me? It has to be a two-way street. And so when we're out in the community and we're doing events like Construction Inclusion Week, Women in Construction Week, we're touching communities, right? We're going back down to the human level of having conversations. Yes, we all have to meet our requirements. That is important, right? But that's important for our job. But we are still human beings at the end of the day. We're talking, we're building these relationships over time. And then the reward of this, after we're having these conversations, we're helping them grow, we're connecting them. Like if for example, if small business trade is looking for an opportunity and it doesn't work for me, I'm pinging Shannon, I'm pinging Terri and saying, hey, I have this great company, which we do all the time through our email. I'm like, hey, I just want you to know I have this great company looking for an opportunity. If you have an opportunity with them, let's have a conversation with them, right?
Let's get them signed up.
That's part of I think when we say part of a community, I think you hit it on, is paying it forward. We've all reached a certain level, and now it's time, like at some point in your career, you have to ask yourself, how much longer transactionally can you go? Or, hey, how am I going to pay this forward, right? And I think from our perspective and where we set at, that is the intent, right? It's more than what's for us or for our organization, is what can we do for that community and help continue to grow, especially knowing that this is a trades market. This is not a GC market or an owner's market. Can't fulfill it.
Yep.
You know, it's truly gratifying when, I know on the back end, when you're auditing your list of hub subs, when they actually are no longer certified because they grew out of, their capacity grew so much that they don't qualify anymore. And that's the goal
100%.
right there. And like you said about building relationships, very important. And providing mentorship, I mean, organically, just by, meeting with people one-on-one. I would always encourage my subs to call me at any time and just connect with me. And that's part of what we do.
I'll tell you, at the end of the day, when you get them opportunities, that's not what they remember. They won't remember the time that you spent with them, right?
Yeah.
Because then that's where really, truly, where the heart-to-heart conversations are. They're looking for someone to really guide them, right? And then it's not hey, you're doing a great job, because those are superficial stuff. They're looking like, hey, you know what? I don't think you did well on this. This is where I think you need to improve on. You take it into consideration on how it applies to your business, but I'm just giving you another perspective. We go back to the perspective thing. I think in the small business community, they lack perspective, right? They're so used to being told what to do that they're just kind of following the trend, but then there's no growth in that. When you really start having the limitations, how do you want to grow? It's not always about finances, right? It's not always about like, hey, I want to reach $1 million or $10 million, what that is, because there's more to that growth of building that legacy business. You have to kind of invest your time and be like, hey, what are your limits? Let us understand your limits. Because where that lies is that once you understand their limits, you don't want to give them more of something they can handle, right? Not right now, but maybe later as you help them grow. And when the success stories, and I'm glad Terri brought that up, is that's our biggest reward, really. And especially in our roles, that is the reward, is watching them grow and growing the proper way, not chasing the money. I think I have a philosophy on chasing the money, but growing properly means they stand the test of time. That's where I really wanted to go with that.
I like the thought of helping the small business owners, right? Because like Flintco was established 117 years ago, and we weren't a multi-billion-dollar operation in 1908 when we started, right? I'm sure Rogers O'Brien and Turner weren't the same way, right?
100%.
Oh yeah, 1969.
Yeah, exactly. And it started with probably just a couple of people that had a dream and were able to make it happen. And now, like, they're making it happen for hundreds of people that are on the payrolls of all our companies, right? It started as a dream for somebody, right? For us as the Flint family back in Tulsa 117 years ago. And if they could see where we are today, I don't know that they ever would have imagined what we're doing, right? But I know they would be happy for what y'all are doing and paying it forward to help other companies do that, which is, I mean, that's really the purpose of all of this, right? Yeah, making money's great, right? But the American dream and watching other people be able to succeed is great as well, right? And being an integral part of that. So I love it. I'm inspired. Like, we've only been in here 15 minutes, and I'm completely inspired by y'all and your mission here. So
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah,
I just want
please.
to say, all of us in this group, it's not like our companies asked us, hey, can you go out and reach out to the IBA? I've heard there's this group of guys guys and ladies out there. We're all doing this kind of on our own. And I mean, I haven't really known too much, like who knows at Flintco about this group, just because we just kind of do it on our own. We all have our daytime jobs. All of us in this group are very passionate about helping the community, helping, the minority trades. It's a great group.
Can I just piggyback off of that real fast?
Yeah,
No,
please.
but it's a support group for us too. Because people think when we do these outreaches, like it's an easy outreach. No, there's a lot of time, stuff to put on it. I think my office now is really excited for the next Construction Inclusion Week, especially when we do that supplier diversity event. I mean, if you look at it, we set up like literally, there's probably about 10 owners in there, public entities. And then you got like GCs in there. And then we fill the room up with small business trades where we bring 3 or 4 that we're inviting specifically. We fill that room up, right? And it's an excitement. But, with the day-to-day grind, right, of doing your own personal role, and then now having to also make sure that our small business community is growing as well too. Sometimes it's a heavy lift, and then to kind of, you always feel like sometimes you're in a room full of people and you're by yourself. But with the IBA group, we have people to lean on, right? I lean on Shannon, I lean on Terri.
We're like a support group.
100%. We're there for each other because it's not an easy conversation sometimes to have, right? And especially as things change politically here in Austin, things that are higher demands from our clients and stuff, which is part of the process, and there's no complaints there. But sometimes you have to kind of bounce and look, you're looking for another perspective to kind of help ease your anxiety of, am I doing the right thing for this particular community, right?
So Shannon, you've mentioned the passion that y'all have for this. Can you explain to me kind of what drives that and why the Alliance is so important to you in particular? And then y'all can answer the same question after.
Trying to give back to the community I like to volunteer, personally as well. I just feel like we can all give back in some kind of way. So I use Flintco as an outlet for that as well, with getting the company to volunteer, et cetera. So this IBA group is just another outlet for me to, kind of be selfish and get that good feeling of helping out where I can. So,
Terri, what about for you?
Well, in the beginning, it just kind of felt like you were on your own island doing this. And I had a couple of, friends in other companies I would reach out to if I had a question on how to do something. And I had people calling me as well. But by having a group of general contractors together that can share information, and we don't share like trade secrets and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But we share, like you were saying about with the subcontractors, who's a great subcontractor, who we might want to give opportunities to, that kind of thing. But it's just the passion of being able to work together, knowing that we're doing a better job at promoting, our community and participation. It's just very, it's just awesome.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
HT, what about you? Why is the alliance important to you as a previous small business owner also, right?
I think for me, this is part of the act of caring, right?
Okay.
And then along with this act of caring, you're getting a different perspective. But with perspective, you have to do active listening. Because sometimes you get into this rut where you're thinking one way and that's all you know, and because you got these blinders on, right? And then having this support group with IBA, with Shannon and Terri, with some of our members, we're given different perspectives to kind of open up the blinders a little bit and understand a different perspective. Something that we might not agree, sometimes agree to disagree or not agree, but it gives us a different perspective to kind of carry on to build those relationships. For me, it's active building relationships, right? And this is the most important thing. And honestly, out of the groups that I've encountered, I think the IBA group has definitely been an outlet, but also at the same time, it just makes the process even that more real, right? We're all friends, I mean, we go to each other when we need some stuff, and it's a safe space too. And I guess that's the other part of it.
You've mentioned it a few times, HT, about the community lacking perspective. I'd really like you to talk about what we can do to kind of confront that, to kind of understand the perspective from a small business side, right? Because we all work for, huge companies, right? And I really want to dive into that and talk about how we can gain perspective that will help anybody that's listening to be more involved, to care, to have that active listening, to build relationships, and help us dive into that a little bit.
Let me first give it as from a small business perspective first,
Okay,
right?
perfect.
You're a small business, right? You think you're competing with everybody, right? I got to get as much work as I can. You're probably more of working in the business than you are working on the business, because your blinders is to make that money. You think the money is what's going to help you get to where you want to go. But then you realize that, hey, if I want to grow this, I have to look at it from a different perspective, right? And so you look at these big GCs and say, hey, this is where I want to get to be at. But there's a lot of work. It's a lot of time. And how do you get there, right? But there's also risk mitigation. Like, how do you get that? Part of this community, sometimes what we lack is talking about what risk mitigation are we taking to get there, right? And our small businesses don't see that, right? And so then you look at it from a GC level. You're now getting pressure from your clientele, your organizations you're working for, and how to build this. And there's these mandates. The mandates kind of make us look like robots, right? And in a sense, right?
Yeah.
And you're going out, you're just trying to meet every single requirement that you can. Then it becomes a check off the list. There's a disconnect between what a small business views and where the GC is trying to do. And if you don't have those conversations, or you don't have a place to build those relationships, then there'll always be that disconnect. So the purpose, for me at least, is to help kind of close that gap up, right? And then with everyone coming from the IB group, coming from a different background and having those different resources, now we are building a bridge, right? And it's not for one person to use, it's for everyone to use. And then now we can go back, we're a unified voice. Now sometimes mandates come down, and I think the intentions are great, but the execution is poor. And I hope I don't get in trouble.
I would
for
say
saying
it's more than sometimes. I would say most times.
You know what I'm saying? The intent is there,
Yeah.
but when it comes out, when it looks, literally the message is on a piece of paper. Everyone only sees like, I need to get this done.
Yeah.
But then there's no explanation of like, why are we doing this, right? So for example, diversity goals on projects have gotten higher.
Yep.
But why are we increasing that when we know that our market doesn't have this, right? And now we're putting all this other pressure, because as information flows down, communication also flows down, right? And we're trying to reach those goals. We stop having conversations because now we're just trying to, oh, this firm does this firm does that. We got to remember, at the end of the day, with these small businesses, there's still a human being running that business, right? And if we don't ask the right questions, we don't have the right conversations, we're not doing the justice we need. Because at the end of the day, from top to bottom, it's really that bottom tier, right? That bottom tier of it is our community. And in that community are the small businesses that are trying to survive. Now, the keyword there is surviving, especially in a economical and political environment. It's not easy to be a small business owner, right? You're literally putting your life on the line. And sometimes not having the right conversations, you're heading in that same direction. And when no one giving you that perspective, someone's not willing to give you that perspective is another case too, right? You're going to get lost. And then sometimes your business might not survive. You're talking about someone's lifeline that they're doing, right? People, let me tell you, as a small business, when people say, hey, I started a small business, the person that's listening to that message on the other end sometimes thinks it's always for profit. But you'd be surprised if you have that intentional conversation. It's not always about, it's like, hey, I'm trying to do this to support I have kids that are going to college. I need to do this. It's for my kids. It's a legacy business. I like to pass this on to the next generation. I want to leave a mark in this community. There's so many different reasons.
Yeah.
We always make the assumption, yes, every business needs to be profitable, but sometimes it's not always about profits. It's about the people, right? And then sometimes the way you build your legacy is on the projects that you're on. And the only reason why you get on sometimes on those projects, and is through the relationships you have. Yeah. The more exposure these small businesses get, the more opportunities they're going to get, right? I just told this to someone the other day, and actually one of my family members. I was like, when we drive by a building that we built, right? I'll remember the first 10 seconds. Hey, we built this big concrete building, but that's not what I go to after that. The rest of the other conversation is, I work with so and so. I did this with so and so. I did that. I built that with that company. Yeah. I did that with that. But if you look deeper into that conversation, they're talking about the relationships. They remember the people they work with. Right. So why are we as the GC not the conduit to help these small businesses build those memories, right? Those remarkable moments. And I think for me as a small business, when I go back, my small business was in San Francisco. When I go back and visit from time to time, and I drive by through because we were a civil company. Okay. I'll go through down some of the streets that we help build, put pipelines in because we're a wet utility company. And I'm like, man, the people I work with were amazing. Stories come out of that, right? Yep. Even through the tough and hard moments, those were, for me, and that's, I think, construction at the end of the day, yes, it's our responsibility to build buildings, but really, it's really to build relationships, right? That's how we are successful as an industry.
It's a great point, because I think of the same thing when I drive by and look at a project that I worked on. I think of who I met on the project, and when I meet people in the industry, I'm like, oh yeah, I met that person on this job, or I met this person at and you can relate it to what the job was and how the relationship started. And it's like, oh yeah, and I remember that he has 3 kids. I wonder how old they are now. And I start doing the math. I'm like, man, if we met in 2008, like they're probably in college now. Like, oh my gosh, like, hey, your kid's in college? Like, no, they actually graduated. And it's like, oh wow, I can't believe that. But it brings the human element, which I love that. I love the thought of that, because this business is all about relationships, right? And as you get to know people, they help you out, you help them out, right? And it's kind of a big family, like just like y'all are doing right here. Even competitors, y'all have created a family type, you've created community, and you've created a safe space for you all, and I applaud that. I love it.
I started with Shannon. I'm Shannon and Terri and Stephanie from a DPR. Honestly, yeah. Let me tell you, when I first started, I'm like, how am I gonna find all these resources? I'm new to the market. Just moved to Texas, 2 years prior, and I'm like, I gotta. How am I gonna be efficient at my business and be good at it, and start building these relationships? It was lifeline saving for me to know that someone else believed in the same thing and wanted to get together and do this, right? I mean, just think about it. If we just stick to our jobs and feel like, once again, you can be in a room full of people and still feel like you're alone. Yeah. That is not ever the point with the IBA, right? Hey, If you're in this role, it's a tough role to be in. Tough conversations, finding resources sometimes are very hard, right? You're not alone. You're here with us, right? And we can help in any kind of way, up to a certain extent, of course, because we all work for our own organizations. But that line, I think, without even having to put rules of engagement, we're very good about front of the house is front of the house, the back of the house is us, right? And that's what makes it special.
I was wanting to just kind of take it another direction and maybe get off course a little bit.
Yeah, let's do it.
On the other end, our owners reps, it's for our supervisors. They might want to hear this. Are the owners reps that we work with, the companies, the University of Texas, the City of Austin, Texas Facilities Commission. Those owners are recognizing also what we're doing, and they're very appreciative as well. I that's just on the other end, but
100%.
they like to see that what we're doing as well to help the community out.
I think at our event that we held during Construction Inclusion Week, we had 100+ people there.
Wow.
And City of Austin, Austin ISD, Travis County Central Health, UT, were some of the firms represented on the owner side. We had some trade associations there. And then mainly our core group of general contractors and then lots of trade partners.
It's a united front for sure.
And they were very, very impressed by that.
HT, you talked about touching the community on a human level, and you talked a little bit about relationship building. I want to relate that to mental health in this industry, right? It's something that plagues the construction industry because we're on tight deadlines. You have a budget to meet. You've got people that you have to kind of make sure that they're okay on kind of a regular basis. Like how does mental health play into also just the IBA, and as you're helping these young companies and small businesses kind of grow up, how do y'all address that with them?
It's definitely a check-in, right? It's all through conversation. You meet someone, and you build that relationship. You know how the way they operate. The mental health issue is an invisible beast. I'm going to show you an example. I'm a veteran, right? I medically retired in 2009 after my combat injuries in Iraq.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. There is a period of time in my life, I think within 6 years, every single time that phone rang past midnight. Back in my 20s, like if you got a phone call past midnight, one of your buddies pranking you.
Yeah.
I get all fun and laugh. But as you get older and these responsibilities, right, these commitments you make become a little bit more and more powering. It takes over your life, and it's added pressure onto your daily life, right? What things you're doing. When I get those phone calls in the middle of the night, it was terrifying for me. Like I would get goosebumps. I would like sick to the stomach. Like, do I want to answer this call? Because what that on the other line, what the news that was going to be delivered, right? And I'm talking about my veteran community, and I don't see it any different than the construction industry, right? Every day we come to work, I got to be there on time. I got to do X, Y, and Z. Oh, but when it comes to your personal health and your personal matter, you don't deal with it. You kind of shuffle it to the side because, hey, I got to get to the objective. And that's the key word. I got to get to the objective. But is it worth it to get to the objective for you individually?
At what cost?
At what cost, right? And for 6 years, it was like that. And I think at one point, the real issue is after a certain amount of time, you become numb to that feeling. And when it's numb to the feeling, that means that a part of your soul is gone, right? Because now you're just expecting it.
Yeah.
That's the wrong thing to expect. And in our industry, just think about it. It's long hours, hard work.
Deadlines.
The pressure's there, deadlines.
Budgets, yeah.
And then not only that, that's just from 8 to 5.
Yeah.
From 5 to 6 in the next morning, it's your family obligations. At what point do you have the time to check into yourself and say, what do I need? It goes way too long. Sometimes it comes out. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little choked up about this, but people forget about them. If you don't take care of yourself, there's no way you can take care of anyone else, not even including the project, right? Sorry about that.
kind of want to interject.
Please.
So, I've been in construction 35 years.
Oh, wow. Nice.
And started out in California and wound up here in native Austinite, born and raised. But I work many hours, as you know, a lot of us do, and I didn't know 8 to 5. I didn't know work-life balance. I
Right.
just 80 plus hours in the role that I had, and it kind of took. I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I'm a cancer survivor now.
Praise God.
But it took that to open my eyes and realize I have to maintain that work-life balance. And it was a huge aha moment for me. And it's just my stress level, everything has come way down since I learned how to manage that more. And I just see other people that are just doing the hours that I did and the stress that they're under. And I'm like, I try to take them aside and
Not sustainable, right?
talk to them. Yeah, it's real important to reach out to people that you see may be under, mental crisis.
Oh, yeah.
And you know that word work-life balance,
Yeah.
I think we as an industry are still trying to define that, right?
Yeah.
But the glimmering hope is it is kind of heading in the right direction. Like people are starting to realize like, hey, we can't burn our people out, right? One of the reasons why I love Turner and because our CEO, Peter Davern, believes in the 3 Ps, right? He believes in the people first. Take care of your people, right? And then we'll get on the right projects. And then profitability will be at the bottom if you take care of the first 2 things. And I think our industry is starting to kind of gear towards that way too, where we're not as profit driven. I mean, we still are, but we're starting to break away from that notion because we understand that, projects can be unlimited, profits can be limited or unlimited, right? Depending on how the way you execute that. But the people for sure are very limited, right? And not only that, but we already know, especially, let me give a little drop here on workforce development. We already know our industry is not isn't the first hand people raise when they say, I want to go do construction, right? It's not the glorious one that they want to do.
It's the only one that would take me.
And there's so many misconceptions in our industry that they just think like, hey, when they think of construction, hard labor, hard work. And there's so many different facets of construction that we don't get to talk about because people don't understand. It's all following one stereotype of what we do. And when it comes to, it always comes back to the work-life balance because the other industry have, the way that people perceive it, there's probably more time for yourself. But I mean, every industry struggles with the work-life balance as well too. But in ours, it's important, right? The suicide rate is very high in our industry. And that's a shame. That's a shame. And I'm glad to see that we as an industry are kind of shifting that mindset to go do it. And I mean, when I brought the 3 Ps, I mean, honestly, I didn't think I was going to go work for anyone else, but I believed in Turner. Turner's always been good because it's people focused first, right? Same thing with the IBA. I mean, just put that, it's focused on people first, right? And then we'll figure out what we need to do and where we need to head into that objective. And that's what makes the IBA group special. And I think if you look at our founders that started this lunch, they focused on people first. I'm really giving these 2 ladies, I want to give their ladies the flowers that they deserve, and because they're so humble about it. And I get so tired of them being humble. I'm like, I'm just gonna let you know, any chance I get, I'm gonna have to give you your flowers, right? Because honestly, all it takes, and you really think about it, when you make change, it just takes one person. And then it's the domino effect. And then who else? And then everything else goes.
What I think is people that have been there as a small business owner and working the 80 hours a week, as you're creating relationships with these new small business owners in town, there's some coaching, right? There's some coaching in that also. It's kind of like, hey, make sure that when it's time for you to take off or go to your son's basketball game or your daughter's, ballet, whatever it is, it's like, take the time, right? Because if you can't help serve the people that love you, it makes it even harder to serve the people that depend on you, right? So I think y'all being open to that and having those conversations. I love what you said when you see somebody working 80 hours a week. It's kind of like, hey, some of that's still going to be there tomorrow, right? And are you really getting production by getting the 80 hours? And I've talked to so many people that have said, I check my email on the weekend and this and this. And I'll, when I get home at night, I check it again at 7 or 8. And then you talk to them about, hey, you've got to free yourself from that at some point And once they do and set that boundary for themselves, they're so much more productive when they're at work, right? They're so much more productive when we're like, hey, I've only got from 6 to 5 because at 5:15, I've got to be in the car line and I've got to pick up whoever it is and we got to get to the house and dinner or soccer practice or whatever. And sometimes it's finding the right boundary for yourself and really being able to impose that on yourself. So I can only imagine that's something that y'all are helping do as you talk to these folks that are trying to, start their business. And that's definitely, hey, learn from my lesson, learn from what burned me out, learn from what I experienced as a small business owner.
Let me share with you a personal story because
Please, yeah.
I had a very successful business and I had 2 partners. And one day I just said, you know what? Everyone thinks that one day I just said, hey, you know what? I'm selling my portion and I'm moving to Texas. We built this great business, but there was a lot of pressure. As a combat veteran, you understand the value of life and death, right?
Yeah.
And not everyone gets a second chance. And I've been blessed with the second chance here. And when I was running this business, and I'm like, hey, I'm building this business for my family. I'm building it. So you literally put all your time into it. What was happening was, yes, I was building it for the family, but I forgot about the family in essence, right? Like, my wife was holding down the house, took care of our kids, doing all these things. One day I came home from work and my son had stubbed his toe. Mm-hmm. He was very young at this time and he's sitting right next to me. This is the moment prior to me making the decision, and he stubbed his toe. He literally ran across the house into the back room to go find his mom to let her know that he stubbed his toe. My feelings were hurt. And I'm like, literally, I'm sitting right here and you didn't want to tell me that. I'm like, where did I lose that relationship?
Right.
And he was only like 4 at the time. I'm like, where did I lose that, right? And then one day I was on vacation and the phone just kept ringing. I couldn't disconnect myself to spend time on vacation with my family. It was at 4 a.m. I wake up and I had to use the restroom. But I look at the mirror. I face the mirror. I'm literally looking at the mirror. I don't recognize who's on the other side. Mm-hmm. Because in the name of doing this for the family, I lost myself. Mm-hmm. My family. Like I lost those key components, those moments with my family. And I'm like, what am I doing? Mm-hmm. As a combat veteran, I was like, that was an easy decision. That wake-up call is what I needed because I was started to sob and cry. And I was like, you know what? It ends here today.
It's over, yeah.
Literally, about 2 weeks later, I walked back into my office, right? I'm the CEO and president. And I told my partner, I'm like, by December, you will buy me out. I will be gone. Mm-hmm. I'll be done.
Wow. And
literally left. And everyone's like, how did you just get up and leave? And I said, because family matters first. Mm-hmm. Family is the only reason why I was blessed with the second chance here. You know what I mean? After serving my country, I'm like, you know what? No, I have to go. And literally our last 5 years, I'm a very proud Texan now, I don't have any affiliations with California. I don't say that's my state anymore, but Texas is my home. And, the relationships I've been able to rebuild, been fortunate. The key word there is fortunate to be able to rebuild that. Because just imagine if I waited one more year and let's just say I've lost it all and lost myself.
Yeah.
Where would I be now? Right? And I wouldn't be sitting here being a part of this wonderful IBA group. But when we talk about work-life balance and the sacrifice you have to make it has to be an intentional decision for you to make. And we as being a pillar in our community, we have to make sure that our small business owners who are doing the same thing don't forget that, hey, there's a family, your personal mission on this, right, as you're growing your business, because those things matter first. Mm-hmm.
That's a great story. I appreciate you sharing that because there's somebody that's going to listen to this that's in the same boat, right, that's doing the same thing and is working those hours and is going to wake up and say, oh my gosh, can I
don't
really
sell your
this?
business, but just
can I make,
but
call
like
me
figure
if you
out
want
what
to.
it was.
Let me know. Yeah, Dio's at Flintco. Just let me know if you want to sell your business. But as we continue to talk about the IBA, like I'm sure there's some mentorship opportunities inside of there, or as y'all create relationships. Tell me a little bit about kind of that process of mentoring some of these businesses as they want to grow.
We haven't officially come up with a mentorship type program. We just have different relationships with some of the trade partners. All of us are friends with the Sam with NAMAC.
Okay.
He's president over the National Association of Minority Contractors. we all have that bond. We are trying to kind of mentor him in his organization. So that's, yeah.
And we're part of other trade associations as well as NAWIC, National Association of Women in Construction, ABC, AGC. So through those outlets where, we do use those opportunities, again, to meet one-on-one with subs and just provide whatever guidance we can. I know this is kind of detracting a little bit, but I wanted to talk about something that's really I'm passionate about too, our high school kids.
Yes.
Yeah. And Rogers O'Brien is part of the PTEC program for ACC and Austin ISD.
Okay.
And we kind of provide mentorship and go into the school and talk to the kids about construction opportunities and just the overwhelming amount of opportunity available in the different, it's just not hammering a nail. I mean, you have marketing, business development, you have, operations, project management, estimating, everything. And just kind of opening their eyes to that. And it's really cool to see, well, a lot of kids were in the construction program because their parents were, their parents owned a company or whatever. And others just because they didn't know what else to do with their life. And it's cool to see them kind of go on into their future and either going to a college, pursuing a construction, program, or just going straight into the trades. And just kind of, I've kept eyes and kept in contact with some of these kids, and just seeing their career just grow has been really awesome. But as far as IBA goes, that's something that we're not really talking about yet, but we do have it on our radar to somehow address that and see if we can become more involved as a group.
Yeah, I love the thought of workforce development, right? With all the big projects, right? They talk about the worker shortage that we're going to see as the boomers get out of the business, and it's handed to folks like us to make sure we can carry the business along. And workforce development is it's really important. We're kind of doing something now, right, Shannon? You're kind of involved in what we're doing with Del Valley and what we've done with what's the other school? I just lost it. Is it Crockett?
Yeah.
Crockett High School. And we had some kids in here, some students, right? They're 16, 17, 18 coming in, and we've organized having trade partners here to talk to them and just say, hey, look, this is what construction can look like, even from a dollar perspective, right? This is what, as a sheet metal worker, this is what you can make as a laborer, as the foreman. We had a couple trade partners here. We had Patriot was here as well, and they talked about, being an iron worker. Being an iron worker is not for everyone, but I know there was some of the students that were in there that were like, I want to do that. I want to stand on steel that's 200 feet off the ground and look at the Capitol one way and look at the river the other way. But it's really creating an education of what construction can be, right?
It's funny. My kiddo goes to Round Rock High School, or Stony Point High School.
Yeah.
And the first week of school, he comes to me. He goes, Terri, I want to do HVAC.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, oh, do you know what that means? He goes, something with air conditioning. So I'm like, heating, ventilation, air conditioning.
Yeah.
And I'm like, same as MEP.
Yeah.
Mechanical, I just start like drilling them, mechanical, electrical, plumbing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how did you find out about HVAC? And during the first week of school, some group had already reached out to the kids to tell them about construction.
Wow.
And opportunities. And it was like, huh. And I've already also, my other kiddo, his best friend, I introduced him to the IBEW. And so now he's in the apprenticeship program, pursuing an electrical career. It's just,
It's great to hear stories like that, because we are going to be in a worker shortage at some point, and there needs to be an interest in that, right? College is getting to the point where it's so expensive, it's going to be like it was when our grandparents were growing up. Like, not everybody got to go to college, or not everybody went to college, but because the cost of it, the time, and if you're not set up when you get out the debt that you have when you do it, right? So I think it's important to be able to present this to the high school students and the youth of the community as they come up, just so we can help address it.
And I think it's a part of our responsibility to break that misconception too, that you need a college degree to be successful in life.
Yep.
You know, this country was founded on people with their hands and their skills and built this nation out the way it is, right? And in college, it's kind of a privileged move, but over the last 20 years, that message has been so changed where you have to go to college. And guess what? We have a lot more college student graduates, but we don't have enough workers. Who's going to be the next builder of this of our industry and of the next generation? We need that, right? And I think as we as an industry are out there trying to build these opportunities, it's great to see these high school students get excited for that, right? Because not all of them, not everyone's meant to go to college, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And I think we need to change that with our conversation with parents too, because especially too, I come from an immigrant parent. My dad was a master welder.
Okay, nice.
But would never ever let us touch the trades. It was always about college, right? 100%,
yeah.
never. You got to do, because the mindset is you got to do better than me. But hey, we got to come to a point now where it's like either option is a good option. There's not one is better than the other, right? And we got to fix that messaging. And so to all the parents out there, let's have this conversation, right?
Yeah, I think so. My dad was a successful construction guy, and he never really pushed that on me. He was kind of like, I want you to make your own decision, right? And so I started in college as a mechanical engineering major, and by making a C in pre-cal, I had to change my goals, right? It's like, okay, I'm not going to be an engineer, right? And that was the conversation my dad had with me when I got home. He's like, okay, son, there's going to be like 4 or 5 more of these classes in calculus by the time you're out, and it took me looking back and reflecting over, kind of how I was impacted as a youth growing up. And it was really going to mission trips with my church. And I was like, there was a satisfaction about finishing a project, or seeing somebody in a wheelchair ramp be able to leave their house for the first time in 3 years because they're homebound. And I was like, man, that would be awesome. If I could do that for a living and we could build things that people would enjoy and would change their lives, I'm signing up for it. So I think it's also the high schoolers lack perspective. Like we were talking about earlier, right? So they lack perspective. They're like, I don't want to be the guy digging a ditch on the side of the road. It's like, yeah, nobody does. But I mean, sometimes you end up in that position. And when you are, there's ways to get out of it by being a forward thinker and somebody that'll do a little bit more. And so we've got to keep the interest in the community and in the youth, because there's brilliant youth that are growing up right now that are gonna have small businesses that we are all going to rely on in the next 5, 10, 15 years to build our projects, right? We love to stand up at the end of the job and say, yeah, look at what Flintco did, or look at how we built this. But it's really, for the trade partners, it's like, hey, we wouldn't be anything without y'all, right?
Agreed, 100%.
And that's what's so awesome about what y'all are doing. And y'all are making sure that people are included, right? And that they're available to do the work, and you're helping them with the work. So I'm totally inspired. I hope that people that listen to this are inspired as well, and they want to be a part of it. When y'all think about goals for 2025, y'all sat down and looked at, hey, what are things that we want to do this year, or as Inclusion Week comes up, what are we going to do different than we did last year to be more involved and get the word out more?
I mean, to be honest, today there's a lunch, and we're going to get a logo and a mission statement.
Nice.
It's in the process. So right now we currently do an event for Construction Inclusion Week, and actually we need to start planning for our next event, which will be Women in Construction. So right now we are doing 2 events a year.
And that would be March and October.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
So future events are in the talks.
As people are listening to our podcast right now on this, if you're interested in supporting us, let us know, reach out to us, and love to get more businesses and organizations involved in what we're doing. And it's really organic. Like, honestly, I mean, we're building our structure now, but I mean, we are very open to ideas and what we want to do. And, the more people means more resources, right? To help build the impact. And that's really what IBA is about, is building the impact.
Yeah, and I think once you get the mission statement put down, I think other people will see it and say, man, we've got to be a part. So if you want to join, what are the requirements? Or they reach out to you, or have to be a GC? Tell me kind of what y'all are looking for and how that works.
So yes, our membership is primarily GCs.
Okay.
At this point, we're just guiding. We're offering our services and guiding subcontractors, trade partners, but we're just keeping it to general contractors. We're still a very organic young group. We haven't officially formed at a LLC or anything like that. But
That's kind of the thing I love about this group
yeah.
too. Is we don't have an email address or we're getting a logo and we're going to get a mission statement, and we have our couple events a year. But to me, I like it that it's
we just want to keep
in our
it
events.
simple.
Our events too, or it's no presentation.
Yeah.
We have some introductions or so, but
Love it.
it's about the networking, and I think that's what
It's
our group's
organic.
about. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's organic. Really, honestly.
It's real people solving real problems is
Yeah.
what it sounds like, right?
And I
It's-
think as you build more formality in it, you kind of lose that intention, right?
Yep.
So like the way it is right now, we're just, if you're interested, come and have a conversation with us, be a part of it, be part of these conversations. Anything outside of that, if there is need for anything, we share that need. And I think that's important for people to know, is that it's not just one group or one formal organization like taking on the things. We're not raising money for anything. We just need the effort, right? And bring your intentions, right? Your good intentions to help paying it forward or passing along or help growing the community. That is the most important part, and if we really don't have a second motive for anything outside of just being the community.
Yeah, and my thought is, why would you not want to be involved? If you're a general contractor, why would you not want to help other people succeed? Because as small businesses are successful, right, it helps you be successful, right? It helps people grow. It helps continue to push the industry as the industry continues to grow and continues to even get out of our reach. I feel like sometimes the projects that come out are out of our reach. It's like, even if somebody wins this, they're not going to be able to build it. There's not going to be the people, or they're going to be flying them in from Arizona, or they're going to be coming in from Oklahoma to be able to do this. But if we can keep the people in our community trained up, relationships with them, get them plugged in the right way, it's a plan for success. And it just takes the effort, right?
100%.
And being intentional. I love that. And that's it's something that's almost you have to do every day, right? Even in your own life, you got to show up. You got to be intentional about what you're doing, provide the effort, and you'll see the success.
It's a conscious decision for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As we think about closing out, what are some what's a thought that you would like to give to the listeners? Something that you would want to say to each one of them. Each of y'all can say something.
If I had to give something to our listener, is that, you know what? Sometimes it's okay to ask for help. Honestly, you're not alone out there, right? People don't know you need help until you have to be. It's like, what's that again? It's that conscious decision making. You have to be able to be intentionally say, hey, I need help. If you don't say you need help, we won't know that, right? And until we engage with you more based on how the way things go, we won't be able to step in. So right off the bat, just be upfront about it. Like, hey, I need this, or can you help me out with that? If we have it, as a group, we're very good about like, yeah, definitely we can help you out with that. But there's also been times where like, I have no resources for that. And then now it's on the back of our minds, like, hey, if that resource does come up, like, hey, we know there's a need for it, and we kind of move forward in that way. So asking for help, don't be shy about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what we've talked about, building relationships. Yes, we work for these big giant companies, but we're not the company. The company are the people. The people are who build the company.
Beautifully said.
And so don't be scared to approach and ask for help. Like you said, we're here. We want to talk to you one-on-one.
Yeah, just to kind of fall behind them. It's just it's teamwork. Everything's teamwork. You can't do, anything alone. Like you said, you need assistance. I think we're a great team. Again, super passionate, and looking forward to more relationships.
Okay to ask for help, build relationships, teamwork. Those are all three key words that y'all talked about. What's What's one success story to send us home on? Tell us a story about maybe a trade partner that you met and watching them grow up and maybe even graduate from the hub status. Is there a good story you could tell us? Feel good story to close out?
Actually, one of our speakers that came to our group for lunch, we like to bring a speaker or someone like we think that could be easily connected with our group. And this gentleman came, and he was actually one of our speakers, like with the relationship that he had. Ended up going to Turner School, you know, and gone through the process. And I was able to, with the other students in the class, be able to give him more relationships, right, and reach out to have a better perspective, right? It comes back to that. And so in so many ways, there has been so many different types of impacts. For me personally, the impact here is just having, once again, and I brought this up before, it was just a place of no judgment, a safe space to have a conversation, to figure out or resolve something in the community that they need, right? And that's the most important. But that success story, it happens so often. Like there's not really one particular story, right? And like, I don't want to just squeeze one out, but it just happens so naturally that it's now become part of how the way we operate. That's just, and that's the kind of the best way to operate anyways, right? It's to kind of do it without even having to think like, hey, what are the parameters here? There are no parameters, right? It's kind of moving forward. So.
Well, I'd like to thank y'all for being here today. I'd like to thank y'all for being intentional. I would like to thank y'all for creating a safe space to create community, right? Because in a place where you feel like you belong, you're going to be successful. So I appreciate y'all for doing that and appreciate y'all looking out for the betterment of everybody. It sounds like y'all are just about doing good wherever you go. And as a guy that wants to leave his mark in the Central Texas industry, y'all are leaving your mark, and I applaud you all for that. So thanks for coming today, and thanks for telling us a little bit about IBA.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you for having us.
You bet.
It's been such a long